Hi, and welcome to Haunted AF, the podcast of real ghost stories told by real people. We are your hosts. I'm Julie Fisk.
And I'm Rebecca Black. Welcome to our April episode.
Woo!
This is our first episode since the eclipse. And thank God it looks like none of us were like abducted up into the sky by the aliens.
I know.
It's a little disappointing.
It's a little, I really thought that something cool might happen.
I love that after it happened, we're like, oh my God, that was so amazing. And then we go into this whole thing of like, we were sitting ducks.
It is true.
Right? Like we were all outside. It would have been the perfect time for them to just scoop us all up and take us away.
So do you think the fact that we're all still here after the eclipse is more proof that there are no aliens?
There could be like a small town that we've never heard of that's wiped off the planet and we have no idea.
Or, you know, there's that one tribe out in the middle of some jungle that has had they're gone. Somebody check on those guys.
Yeah.
But everybody saw the UFO footage out of Dallas, correct?
Thank you for saying that because, yeah, it's a plane, people. It was clearly an airplane.
How many people sent you that video?
1 million.
Yes.
And then I'm like, the fact that Dallas, Texas TV had it posted, and I'm like, bros, you know this is a plane, yes?
Back up. This is so cool. What's that? What is that? What's that?
It had such a Nope feeling to it.
Oh, yeah.
Because in Nope, you remember like whenever the alien or whatever that thing is like zipping around in the sky and it was silent.
Clearly where I was standing from, you could see the outline of the wings. And
it's a plane.
It's a plane.
It's absolutely a plane. There are those moments though sometimes where things happen and it has this really creepy otherworldly feel to it that you kind of realize, oh, well, this is why people think that this is something.
Oh, yeah.
There was this
definitely had those vibes.
Yeah.
Like the eclipse altogether.
Yeah.
Right.
There was one time when I was in Asheville, we were sitting out on the porch. It was at night. It was beautiful looking out over this valley. An owl flew out of the woods very close to us and kind of went across this clearing where we were, but he was so silent and it was just such this perfect moment of this giant ass bird coming out. And in my heart, I was like, Skinwalker. Like I just immediately, I was like, that wasn't an owl.
No,
I don't know what the hell that was.
No,
so
something morphed.
Yeah. So I can see how people will see something that's completely normal, but you're like,
yeah, I totally get that. And like I said earlier, I feel like the entire solar eclipse was a creepy, weird.
And forgive us if you weren't in the path of totality or
you missed out
on a part of the planet that didn't have, don't worry. There's always another one coming soon.
Like we'll be dead though. You and I will
probably.
Yeah. I think it's like 40 years from now.
But there was this moment you would be looking through your glasses and boom, it was totality.
Yeah.
And then you take off your glasses and you see what it actually looks like in real life. And it's like, whoa. I mean, that was the moment I think all of us just shit our pants.
I absolutely did. It was better than anything I could have ever imagined.
Same.
Like it was so worth it. And then I saw somebody post like on Twitter, like, we don't all need to see your eclipse pictures. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yes, you do need to see.
Oh my God. I'm going to post 12 more just because of that.
Right?
That's why we're off X. Or whatever it is.
That's it. That's the reason why.
We did bail from, if you followed us on Twitter, I'm not calling it X anymore. If you followed us there and you don't see us there anymore, there's a reason. We just saw something really, really horrible. The worst thing I've ever seen on social media.
Right.
And
it just noped on out.
Yeah. And it was like, you know what? We don't need to be here anymore. So please follow us, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
literally everywhere else but
Twitter. And make sure you why am I saying all of this? I think I've got this written down for you coming up.
I know. I can bust in any moment. Okay. Don't forget. We've got exclusive content.
Yeah.
On patreon.com/hauntedaf.
Oh, and we do need to say hello to our newest patrons. We've got Donna, who's a returning patron. Also love to Mitzi and to Darren. They both became annual patrons.
Yay.
And Darren says he has stories, but he has to get his ass into gear first. So
again, you can find all of that exclusive content, patreon.com/hauntedaf. And before we go any further, we do need to remind everybody, send us your spooky stories. We love the weird shit stories. We love glitches in the Matrix, which by the way, I told a really awful one.
Yeah, that involved tampons.
It did. So if you want to go listen to that, please do.
And by the way, it's been so long since we've actually taped together that I screwed up and I didn't have our mics plugged in properly.
Oh, yeah.
So it sounds really bad. So now you need to go and listen just to hear how bad it sounded.
For that low quality audio.
Yeah.
It happens.
Because sorry to our patrons.
Yeah, we also need some Bigfoot stories, UFO stories, all the things, hidden rooms, whatever you got, please send it to us.
And it's especially tough tough right now because since we're only releasing episodes once a month, people are just not sending that many stories. So I'm digging through stuff from 2020, which I've bitched about in prior episodes. And usually the stuff that's back there, it's like really, really long stories that I kept putting off because they were taking so long to get through.
And now you have to. And that's all we've got.
And sometimes it's torturous. Like I will be 30 minutes into trying to edit a story about footsteps or something. And I'll just be like grinding my teeth getting through them. And then boom, an email will show up and save the day. Like this one from Allison, it just came in. She says, "Hi, I discovered your podcast last week and I love it. Yay. Anyway, I have a ghost-ish story. In 2002, I went to Oregon to visit someone I'd been talking to online, which in retrospect was stupid. Yeah, but I think people do that all the time.
They do.
Anyway, so.
It's common now.
Yeah. Anyway, we were driving to the coast and ended up at a hotel called Seagull Inn in Lincoln City. My friend and I immediately went to the beach when we got unpacked. At this point, it was like 10:30, 11 p.m. So very dark. We were sitting pretty far back from the water when I looked to my right and I saw a woman with a long white dress carrying a basket. I turned to my friend and said, "Oh, great, we've got company." In the 2 seconds it took to turn and say that, I looked back and she was like 15 to 20 feet out on the water.
Oh, dang.
I was stunned, but thought that's weird. So to test it again, I looked back at my friend and then back at the woman who was back on the beach again. I closed my eyes like a blink and she was back out on the water. I told my friend, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a ghost." We watched her for like 10 minutes and even had to walk past her to get back to the hotel. That's when we noticed she had no feet and was like floating. Her dress had also changed from white to black. Never saw her face, and I don't think she noticed we were there because she never disappeared. Now, my husband and I honeymooned in Oregon and went to that same hotel. My husband went out on the beach one night and sat in the dark hoping to see her, but no such luck.
Oh, that's so cute.
I know.
It's so cute.
It really is. I need to know though why she didn't go back out there. Yeah.
Maybe scared.
I even emailed the hotel to see if anyone else had seen her, but didn't get a reply. Thanks for reading. And again, that is from Allison.
Man,
so
a ghosty 10-minute show.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That's a long time to see an apparition.
So I asked Allison, I said, when she was out on the water, was she like in the water? Or she said she was like floating like above hovering. The water. Right. Freaky. So are you ready to see this Seagull Inn?
I am absolutely ready to see it.
I put a note in the notes that was like, "Rebecca, don't look at this beforehand."
On. Can I just tell you, I think it's hilarious that you put a note in there. I did see it. I screenshot it. I'm going to post it on all my social media today because here's the thing. I am a fan of this podcast. I do not like to read anything that Julie is going to read. I'm just getting the podcast in real time. I want to be just as surprised as everybody else.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so here we go. This is the Seagull Inn.
Oh, it's going to be so creepy.
Oh, wait, that's not the picture that I wanted to show you.
It's a beautiful beach, though.
There it is.
Ooh.
It's kind of like, tell me you're a haunted hotel without saying you're haunted.
100% yes.
But beautiful.
Gorgeous. It's like everything I could hope for. No wonder you went there for your honeymoon.
I know. It's absolutely amazing. So we need to Google, or if anybody wants to do it for us, to find out, is the Seagull Beachfront Inn haunted? Is this like one of those places that if you live in Lincoln City or wherever this
everybody knows it's haunted?
Right. So we need more information about that one.
It's giving me Shining vibes. I'm not going to lie.
Siri, I said that.
Did
my God. I was so excited when this email came in. I read it to my daughter and I did exactly what I just did to you. I was like, "Okay, Lucy, here it is. Here's the picture. Look. Yeah. And when I showed her, I'm like, "Don't you just hear the Shining theme song when they're driving up to the overlook? That bum, bum, bum."
Totally.
Bum.
100%.
Yes.
You did that so well.
Thank you. It felt good.
That might be, can that be next year's like intro to the podcast?
But like us just singing it. Dun, 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 dun. I don't even know if that's really what it sounds like.
No, it does.
Who's that scratching at the back door? Who's that drinking out the toilet bowl? It's the dead pet of the week.
Excellent. Okay. And yes,
I felt like a howl belonged there at the end. I'm so sorry.
Very good. All right. This next story comes from Allison.
Hello. Love the podcast. I wanted to send in a story for Dead Pet of the Week. This is about my cat Tootsie, who passed away somewhat unexpectedly. We found out she had developed like 3 types of cancer and a heart condition. And so we were really heartbroken about her loss. And then we started to have some weird things happening in our house shortly after she had passed away. The first instance was when my boyfriend and I were in bed. We have another cat, and we both thought that our cat had jumped on the bed. And I got up to find her and look for her, and she was nowhere in the room. And my boyfriend also looked up and said, "Where is she?" And we both were convinced a cat was in our bed and no one was in there. The next was when we were both sitting in our living room with our cat who was alive. One of the cat toys that was a ball just rolled across the floor on its own. And we both saw it, and our other cat was not playing with it. It just started moving on its own, and it rolled probably 4 feet and then just came to a complete stop. The last time that was probably the most convincing for me, I was in the bathroom getting ready, and I had just fed my cat who was alive, and we had since gotten a second cat. It was always a big deal feeding them because my one cat would kick the other cat off her food bowl and eat both of the food. And then the cat who got kicked off would take off running. And so I fed them both, and I ran to the bathroom to do my makeup, and I saw a cat run past the bathroom immediately behind me. I got really mad because I thought my cat kicked her off the food bowl. And so I yelled out my cat's name, Granada, and I came running out into the kitchen to find both my cats sitting there where I left them eating food. So we're pretty convinced Tootsie was in that house. We've since moved, and I was really worried that we wouldn't have any more Tootsie encounters in our new house, and we haven't, which is a bummer, but I hope that she's still in that old house haunting the new people who are living there. And that's my dead pet of the week.
Oh, thank you, Allison.
That
Sweet
is so
Tootsie.
sweet. I know.
And we have the stories of people who move into houses and they're like,
Yeah.
we have a ghost kitty.
Yeah.
So hopefully she is.
She'll
Hopefully
be loved in that house now by somebody else. All right. Our next one comes from Tammy. Sorry, I really just feel the need to be like, Tammy. I don't know why.
Because of Melissa McCarthy. She did that movie.
You are so right. That has to be where it's from.
Tammy.
Anyway, she says, I used to live in this little house out in the country. It was an old camp counselor's cabin that was turned into a residence. Have we not seen any of the movies? No, I lived there with my daughter. And when she was young, my father passed away. He was crazy about her. He used to put all of his change in a bowl, and when the bowl was full, he would give it all to her.
Oh.
After he passed, I would find piles of change all around the house and in places I knew I hadn't left them, because I think you would remember that.
Paw.
Right. That's so sweet. In the warmer months, I would leave the front door open and take in the cool air. I would always see movement out on the porch, like someone was walking around out there. However, the thing is, I never heard footsteps on the porch, and there was never anyone there. This happened so often that it eventually didn't faze me. Several years later, I was going through a divorce that left me completely broke and wondering how to keep a roof over our heads. One morning, I was standing in the kitchen looking out the window, just feeling hopeless. I turned around, and there was a man standing right behind me.
Oh my goodness.
Now, he wasn't a solid man. I could sort of see through him. He had gray hair that looked like it used to be red and was wearing a baseball cap and had on a plaid shirt. He was looking out the window just like I had been. As soon as I saw him, he faded away. We moved shortly after that, and I never saw the man again. I often wondered, though, if he was there to shock me enough to get me moving forward again.
Maybe.
I've been in my new home for 14 years now and haven't seen anything else. My beautiful babies are grown and out on their own. Actually, I guess that transparent little man did play a part in getting us to our next chapter. Tammy.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's a great story. I love that.
All right. This next story comes from Allie Rose.
Hello. I really love the podcast. So I wanted to send in my story about dream sharing. I moved to New Mexico after I graduated from undergrad, and I just moved in with this graduate student, and I did not know him, but I was going to be his field technician for the summer. We were actually studying lizards in White Sands, New Mexico. And so I really didn't know this person at all. And we slept in the trailer together. He had his own room and I had mine, and we slept with the door shut. One night I experienced sleep paralysis, which is the only time in my life I have. And what I was experiencing was thinking that somebody was breaking into the trailer and that they were trying to get in the front door. That wasn't working. So they were trying to get into my bedroom window. It felt very real to me. And I just kept having the thought, you need to get up, you need to wake up, and you have to go get Clay, which was my boss. And I couldn't move. And I felt like this person was really breaking in and I was in some serious danger. And I realized I couldn't move no matter what I did. And so then I had the thought, try to yell for him, try as hard as you can. And I tried, but I was failing miserably. Finally, I broke out of it and I was saying Clay's name, but at a whisper. And again, my door was shut and I was down the hallway. After that, we got ready for the day. And at breakfast, I didn't mention anything. I didn't really know this man. And I was actually a little bit scared of him. He was an intimidating boss. And he started telling me that he had a really weird dream and proceeds to tell me that he dreamt that somebody was trying to break into the trailer and they couldn't get in the front door and were trying to get in my bedroom window, and that he couldn't get up and that he really needed to get up to try and help me. And no matter what he did, he wasn't able to. And then at some point he started to hear me scream his name incredibly loud, but he wasn't able to get to me. And then he came to. So it was incredibly weird. It was the exact dream that I had, only from his perspective. Our front lawn was entirely mud. So I did look and there were no footprints or anything to indicate someone actually was breaking in and that we were actually hearing that. And to this day, it remains probably one of the weirdest things that I've had happen to me. Thanks.
Man.
Like, we've heard dream sharing between people that know each other.
Right.
But this is a total stranger.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How much you want to bet someone was like murdered inside that trailer or something?
Oh,
yeah.
Now I feel bad because I'm like, sorry, you lived in a murder house.
Yeah. And send us a picture of these lizards. Like, what a cool job.
Right? I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. But at the same time, you have to live in a trailer with someone you don't know. In Mudville.
Super weird.
Yeah, lots of
weird
twists and turns to that one. Thank you, Allie Rose. We found another person who's being haunted by us.
Good.
Hello, Rebecca and Julie. I'm Mary, and I heard you girls mention many times that listeners say listening to the podcast was causing scary experiences in their life. We haven't gotten one of these in a while.
It's been a minute.
I was skeptical at first, but think I've been proven wrong. I was listening to the podcast while getting ready for work, and after a few minutes of playing, it went strangely silent. I went to see what was wrong, and to my surprise, the entire app was closed.
What?
I ignored it, thinking it was just glitching, and went on with my day. When I got to work, I put on my AirPods and continued listening. Roughly 1 hour in, it happened again. The podcast app completely closed on my phone. I thought to myself, okay, now that's weird, because it happened twice in the same day. The next day, I was in the middle of the supply room at work listening to the podcast when I clearly saw a tall, skinny guy walk through and then slam the door shut. It startled me because I had never seen him before and didn't know that anybody else was in the room with me. I stepped out to see who it was and no one was there. I asked my coworkers who would come out, but they hadn't seen anyone else. My body gets cold just thinking that it might not have been a physical guy who slammed that door on me. Love the podcast, ladies. Stay safe. And that is from Mary.
Oh, Mary, woo! That was great.
Okay, this next story comes from Holly, and it's kind of long. This is a two-parter.
Hi, guys. My name's Holly, and I'm from Alaska. I have a couple of really great ghost stories to tell you, experiences that I've had. The first one is when I was a very young child, and I lived in Utah at the time. The house that we owned in this little town called Cleveland was the very first mail place that was built in this town.
Like a post
So it was
office?
really, really super old. My mom and dad decided one day that they wanted to open up the attic space and turn it into a bedroom for us three older children. Well, this is where my story begins. We had a ghost that was up in this attic space. It was the form of a man. It didn't have any feet. I knew that this ghost would come to the sound of movement. So I made sure that if I felt myself waking up, that I'd keep my eyes closed until I heard either my sister or my brother move. And then I would open my eyes and the ghost would be standing by whoever it was that had made the noise. My older brother was the one that it was always standing by. I would watch it, and then my sister would roll or move, and it would float over to my sister's bed and then stand at her bed. I do remember that I was so freaked out that I took all of my stuffed animals and I would put them all around me and then put one big one on top of my face and on top of my body to make it look like the stuffed animal was sleeping in the bed. I have no idea who he was, but it was quite an experience opening my eyes and seeing this like every night. Okay, so another story I have to tell you was pretty scary for me and my husband. We were really into the show Ghost Hunters. And on one of the shows, they had gone to the Stanley Hotel to investigate. And they talked about how Stephen King was there. And that's where he got the idea for The Shining and everything. And so this is where we come in. My husband was coming back from Iraq and I wanted to do something special for him. So we went to the Stanley Hotel and I was going to surprise him. I asked them to let us stay in that specific room. So we stayed there for 3 days and 2 nights. When we got there, we went into the room and we checked out the closet. So that night, my husband decided to put an L-shaped piece of plastic that said no smoking. That little L-shaped sign that they had up on the dresser, he decided to put it in front of the door. And we went into the bathroom and we were talking about how nothing had happened and how this was just a big hoax. And right when I said that, the light bulb over the bathroom sink just shatters. And it freaks me out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I call down to the desk. They send somebody up to change the bulb. And they're like, oh yeah, we're changing things all the time in here. We woke up the next morning and the closet door had opened and closed because the little L sign that we put in front of it was out in the middle of the room. The next day, we just went around the hotel and nothing else happened to us. One of the funny things that we did do, though, the room that we were staying in, they had tours coming through the Stanley Hotel. And we would hear people in the middle of the afternoon come up to the door and she'd start telling the story about how maids that they saw ghosts in there and how things got taken off the nightstand. And when we heard them coming, we would wait by the door and then we would shake the door really bad and freak them out. And then we'd open it up and tell them we were just kidding, but we would shake it really bad and scare the people out there. And it was a really fun time. Thank you, ladies, so much. I love the broadcast that you do. I love listening to you every night, and keep up the amazing work and the wonderful stories.
Oh, thank you, Holly.
Oh, that was great.
So how many times do you think when people have like ghostly encounters at the Stanley, it's just the guests fucking with them?
At this point now, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Okay. So there was a second part to Holly's story and there was an audio issue with it.
Oh no.
But she talked about one night waking up and thinking that she saw a woman floating above their bed.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which was like a big part of the story.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I couldn't include that part, but she said she was in a blue dress. She woke her husband up. Her husband didn't see it.
She said at the Stanley Hotel
Stanley Hotel on the same trip. I would like to know from everybody if you've had or heard or anything about a woman in a blue dress at the Stanley Hotel, because that's interesting. I've heard about a little girl. I've heard lots of instances, but I don't know that I've heard about that.
Yeah,
so
neither.
All right.
And hey, wait, hold on really quick. Random side note about the Stanley Hotel, just because, the movie, The Shining, based on Stanley Hotel, but it was filmed in Oregon.
Right.
Did you see this week that hotel caught on fire and they're closed?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that crazy? I'm like,
Oh.
that's how the movie ends.
Oh my God.
Or is it in the book that it burned?
The second movie. Do you remember the second one?
Oh, Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. Yes, because they went back to it.
Such a great movie.
It is a good movie.
Such a good movie.
I
think it's better than The Shining.
No, well, you're wrong about that. But the Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep is fantastic. If y'all have not seen it, you absolutely have to. It's so good.
I think it kind of got bad reviews. People didn't love it.
It had to be because they were killing kids.
Well, yeah. And then Rebecca Ferguson, she's just so hateful.
But I love her.
Oh, she's just
so good.
All the vampires in it, they're just the worst.
They are.
Worst.
They're horrible. They're awful. But if you're a vampire, you got to be bad.
I'm so glad we're on the same page about that one.
It's such a great movie.
But yeah, when they go back to the Overlook,
right. It does. It does.
It burns in that one. And now we're going to wrap everything up with a story from 2020.
Woo!
Michael Shanahan, who actually had a podcast called Popcorn Saga. I have no idea if it's still going. Yeah, he'll tell you about it.
This is from 2020. That's why we don't know.
Yeah.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Haunted AF podcast. My name is Michael Shanahan and I'm from South East London in the UK. I'm a podcaster, just like you guys. My podcast is called Popcorn Saga. Check us out on all your podcast apps. But I'll get into my story. Now, I need to give you a bit of background information about where I grew up, which is called the St Helier Estate in South East London. Developed in the 1930s, the St Helier Estate was built to rehouse many of inner London's residents who are living in decaying properties as a result of the First World War. The estate was one of the largest housing developments in Europe when it was built. My granddad, being one of the children, moved from East London into St Helier Estate, where he met my grandma. My mum was born here. A lot of history in this estate. During the Second World War, at least 20 bombings took place over the estate between 1940 and 1941. An ACAT gun was situated at one of the estate corners on Westminster Road, as there was a good line of sight to the skies above the hospital. Now, Westminster Road may mean nothing to you, listener, but to me, that's 50 metres away from the house I would later grow up in 50 years later. In November 1992, my family and I moved in to 49 Whitby Road without knowing the history of this street. From the moment I walked in, I was scared to go upstairs. Even thinking about it now gives me chills. Just looking up those stairs, it just didn't feel right from day one. Now, a little bit about the house: 3-bedroom upstairs, and downstairs was the toilet, and in the garden there was an air raid shelter. Now, an air raid shelter is where during the Second World War families would go and sleep in there when the bombings were going on, because they were reinforced buildings with the hope of not dying, basically. Weeks later, I was in bed. Me and my brother had bunk beds. I was on the bottom bunk, he was on the top bunk, and it must have been early morning, and I felt a hand slowly wrap its fingers around my wrist. I remember it vividly, feeling like someone was actually touching my wrist. And from that night onwards, I was on the top bunk. My older brother was on the bottom bunk because I was too scared. And that was the first incident in that house. Now, you would always hear bumps and creaks like any old house, but it always felt eerie. If you woke up in the night and I needed to go to the toilet, I would either run really fast because the toilet was downstairs, or I just wouldn't go, which led me to wet the bed into an age I'm not willing to admit on a podcast. But it was through fear, basically. The key events that I remember mainly happened to my mum. Lovely lady, good mum, but she also has a form of Asperger's, which she's very particular. She has forms of OCDs. She doesn't understand sarcasm. She's a very straight talker. She doesn't lie. She has no filter. My mum doesn't bullshit. So let's just leave that there. So if we fast forward to, say, 97, 98, my little sister's 5 or 6 by then. She was upstairs playing with her toys. My mum was downstairs. Well, my sister was singing along, playing with her toys, and my mum heard someone tell her to shut up really loudly, to which my sister did shut up, and it upset her. She came down crying. The creepiest thing that my mum said was the voice didn't sound of this world. It was deep. It was a horrible voice that just told her to shut up because she was singing and playing and being loud like a 5-year-old is. Around a similar time, my mum was home with my sister. They're sitting down to watch a film, and someone walks into the bathroom, locks the door. 5 minutes later, they come out and go upstairs. An hour later, I came in, and my mum said, "Have you just come in?" "Yeah." "Did you come back for the toilet or anything?" I said, "No, I've been at my friend's house," and I had been. I said, "Why?" And she told me. The look on her face, she literally went as white as a sheet. I remember it so vividly because she was convinced it was me coming home, but there was nobody else in. And finally, this was when we was all a bit older. We're all at school. My mum heard whispers on the stairs, and she shit herself, basically. That house always felt eerie. Looking back, the house I live in now doesn't feel like that. The only conclusion we ever come to is that our house was bombed in the Second World War, and possibly a young boy died similar age to me, or girl, or someone, and maybe that's who was haunting that house, because something definitely happened. I'm getting goosebumps all over my body talking about this. But what my mum always believed, that she was the conduit. She calls it her special brain, her Asperger's, but she believed she let it in. But I guess we'll never know what happened in 49 Whitby Road. Thank you.
Oh, he's such a good storyteller.
It's great.
Thank you, Michael.
So good. But I've never heard that aspect of maybe because she had Asperger's that somehow like let her guard down for something else to come in.
Dude, I totally believe that.
But like we always hear the Alzheimer's stories of like them seeing their loved ones and stuff like that. So maybe there is something to that.
I believe that.
Same.
I totally believe that our brain filters things out.
I agree.
And Asperger's, your brain is wired a little differently.
If you already see things differently in your life anyway,
right?
Why would that be any different?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Man, the air raid shelter, like those things,
so creepy.
That's so wild to me.
Yeah.
And to think that you could be living in modern times and still have an air raid shelter next to your home.
I don't know. I would probably, as a kid, would have turned that into a clubhouse somehow.
Oh my
gosh, that
gosh.
would have been so cool.
And we've had stories before
Yeah.
about the haunted air raid shelters, and they're just fascinating. We have a lot of listeners in the UK as well. If anybody has an air raid shelter, we would love to see photos of it. I would absolutely love that.
Okay, yeah. Quick reminder, Haunted AF, we are all over the place. We have a website, hauntedaf.com. Please check it out. You can see all of our episode blogs. And of course, we've got these amazing t-shirts, mugs, merch, all the things. They're so cute.
And before we go, we have some homework for everybody. Has anyone heard of the Pigman? It's kind of an urban legend type thing. Well, we got a bonkers Pigman story this past month. And before we share it, we want to give everybody else a chance to tell their Pigman story. So send those and really anything else you've got, but please keep it under 5 minutes for my sanity. Please send those to hauntedafpodcast@gmail.com. Wait, do you want to say something about Pigman?
All I'm thinking of is that Twilight Zone pig face people episode.
Okay, the stories are gross.
Okay.
They're really gross, but we'll share that in the next Haunted AF.